What's going on, world? Welcome back to another edition of the Black Mental Health Podcast. I'm your host, Reg. Joined today with me is a special guest. And you by looking at him, you wouldn't tell that the story that he has and how amazing it is. And I appreciate him for coming on. So, Joe, I don't introduce anybody because I don't like to miss a credential or the way people introduce themselves. And so please let the people know who you are and a little bit about yourself.
My name is Joe Barksdale, originally from Detroit, Michigan, born and raised from Detroit, Michigan, because too many people are from the suburbs and they try to claim the city. Anyway, I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I'm married. I have 2 kids. I used to play in the NFL. I also do music and comedy now. So I'm a stand-up comedian, and I'm also a musician, singer, songwriter, producer, guitarist, bass player, keys player, the Akai MPC drum pad, all those kind of things. I do not combine them because I think that that's a corny gimmick. And I am 2 diagnosed mental illnesses, chronic depression and anxiety, and 1 mental disorder, which is high functioning autism.
Well, I thank you for coming on the platform. You said a lot in that short intro, so hopefully we can slow walk it back and break some of it down. So you brought up a list of I don't want to say symptoms, let me be correct, a list of mental health conditions, there we go, that you found out. Was that through time? Like, how do you even come to get these diagnoses, all of those different things?
I got the diagnosis. I would say the first time was when I was playing with the Rams, probably like the year before I got married. Team doctor diagnosed me the first time. I didn't want to hear it. I was like, I'm not crazy. I don't know what you're talking about. I will try to take these meds, but we ain't talking about this no more, And it wasn't until 2016, 17, I had my first daughter. And, it hit me. Like, my daughter didn't ask to be born, and my wife didn't ask to marry someone that was gonna kill themselves. So in order to help the family, as a unit, I realized the best thing I could do for my family is make sure I'm still here. So it kind of got serious to me around then. And I met with some therapists in between this first time I was diagnosed and this time that I got serious about it. Obviously, every therapist doesn't work for every person. So it took some, figuring out this wasn't the right therapist for me, moving on to the next one. But like the therapist I have now, I've been working with her for 4 years, 5 years, I think, 4 or 5 years. She's like one of my best friends. And it took a while to get there. I say that to say, like, I don't need people thinking they're gonna go find their first therapist and it's like, oh, this is fantastic, because it's right. Never, it very rarely does that happen, And then after I met with after I figured out the therapist, and I had to meet with a psychiatrist so I could start getting medication. And that was a whole process in and of itself too. But that's really when it got important to me, was when it kind of hit me that, like, you need to be here for your family. You've dated women whose dads have died early. You don't want that to be your daughters. You don't want your wife to go through that. So the best me I can be for the family is the best me that I can be mentally, which is why I started taking my mental health so serious.
Man, salute to you in that story. And that's a little bit of reminds me of mine, where I was okay with certain things, but it wasn't until it started to affect my wife's and my son when he was born that I thought it was I needed to get help for them. It still wasn't for me at that point. It was for them.
Right. I still don't want to go to therapy. If I go for them, you know what I mean? Like, I'd be lying if I said that, like, and I love my therapist, like I said, but I'd be lying if I said that I left therapy every week, every day, because I go twice a week. If I left therapy every day, like, yeah, this was, I feel empowered, I feel better, and it's not like I walk into every therapy session like, let's get it, So I mean, it's like you said, it's definitely, it comes a point in time where you got to realize that, like, certain situations are bigger than you. And while nobody's perfect, you can take steps to at least make them better than they were,
No, I got you. And you spoke on like your first interaction of like therapy or being even diagnosed was like through the school, through the school, through the NFL, the team, and we, I think, and I'm thinking about it just as a man, we get growing up playing sports or whatever. I would never got to your level, but playing sports, and we get rewarded for being like aggressive and having all of these different things, and they don't talk about the side of making sure like your mental fortitude is okay. So I feel like there's a clap on moment right there where we get to have a conversation of, oh, they were trying to support you in that moment and you were like kind of giving a pushback. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, pretty much. Being an NFL player, the team doctor's job is not to get you healthy; it's to get you back on the field.
Mm.
So my rookie year, for example, there was a cat named Stephen Wisniewski. He had a torn labrum, and he played on it the entire season because the team doctors told him it was just a sprain. They kept giving him, anti-inflammatories and those kind of things. And this man played an entire season, 16 weeks on a torn labrum. Ever since then, in my mind, I can't trust what the team doctor's talking about.
Mm.
Even when I got to another team, it's that kind of stuff is still in your mind. It's like baggage from an old relationship.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that was one of the main reasons why. Because I'm like, nah, the team doctor told my man that he had a sprained shoulder and it was torn. Like, I don't trust this. Um, but I will say, what I know now, I mean, I'm glad I eventually listened. I'll put it like that. Just because, I don't know, like just because one person messes up doesn't mean everybody messes. Those kind of things. So
Mm.
that I was definitely very apprehensive at first for that reason. Like you said, it's the NFL. These people don't really care about me. In my mind, I'm thinking these people don't really care about me. They're just trying to get me out of here, and they're gonna use this mental health thing as a way to get me out of here. So I just try to deny it.
Mm.
You know.
Nah,
Um,
and that I was just thinking about all the players, and of course, the Antonio Brown is like the face of it right now, and just thinking about all the people that you know, uh, probably could use like the benefits of having, and I'll salute to you, and we can kind of transition into it now. You found other art form because NFL is skill set as much as it's skills are art forms too. So you found other mediums, comedy, you found music to express yourself in a way where you're able to utilize your talents in other ways. Can you talk about how important that was for your mental health, where utilizing these different mediums have played a role in you being able to express yourself?
it's funny. I always had the different mediums. That was a knock on me coming out of college. Like this dude doesn't need football. We don't know if he's going to be bought in. I'm not trying to put millions of dollars into someone that's just going to up and realize I want to be an artist one day, or I want to go be an engineer. It's a problem when you can do more than one thing. And I'm
Mm.
realizing that, like even in the world of art, like even in the world of like music and comedy now, people, they'll be apprehensive to put you on stage because you don't need the money. And it's like, what? You already played NFL football. Like, what else do you need? Like, like regardless of if you're good at what you do or not, there's always going to be, I don't know. It seems you get penalized for being multifaceted, but in the NFL is the same way. They want you focused just on sports.
Mm.
But these are things, music and comedy. I was always funny. Um, I mean, I would go as far as to say that, like, even from a kid, either I got funny or I wouldn't be here right now. You know
Mm.
what I'm saying? Um, and music was always something that I was connected to too, because it was all being being a high functioning autistic person and not knowing it for 30 years. It's very hard to communicate with people, among other things. But music, there used to always seem to be a song that could identify how I felt. And I'm not talking about the words. I'm talking about the way that the music feels, because I can feel sounds too. I just don't hear them. So those two things were always a part of my life. And as I started playing, as I started playing football, I mean, coaches weren't really supportive of a music career. You know, we more supportive of winning these games, brother. What you? Hey, that's a hell of a solo, but we lost by 30 last week. You know, like being on losing teams definitely doesn't help. I feel like if I was on a winning team, I feel like it would have been more of a, oh yeah, we got Joe. He does this to take his mind off things. Don't nobody want to hear what you're doing off the field when y'all 0-4 or you know, like 1-15. No one cares. You know. But those two things definitely did help me. And actually, they were like, I remember the first time I met Kobe Bryant, and like we had like a one-on-one conversation. I'm sitting here thinking we're gonna talk about sports. Hey, what's going on, Kobe? My name is Joe. You know, I feel like I'm one of the best players to ever play my position in the history of the game. You know, I'm a dog. Blah 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 blah. And Kobe's just sitting there like, cool. I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm also a musician. He was, oh shit, okay, you do music. You know, like immediately like, okay, cool. Because it didn't hit me that like everybody's trying to prove themselves on the athletic standpoint to Kobe Bryant. But you know, Kobe's got the Oscar for the short film that he did. He had those, he's got those books, those series that he's releasing. Like, I mean, my man was an artist. And I would say that, I don't know, like meeting him and developing a relationship with him and coming to realize that like, if Kobe Bryant sees himself as more than Kobe Bryant, the basketball player, I should be able to do something in art. Like, it's going to be way easier for me to be associated with what I'm trying to do now and get out of the shadow of football just because I didn't touch the ball. Whereas Kobe's taking game-winning shots every week, you know. So that was what really brought out the artist in me. And this is the place you'd never expected to come from. That's how it works. But it was, yes, Kobe Bryant is the person that made me comfortable to like really like be an artist. Like, I feel like I got these hand tattoos after I met Kobe. I mean, my okay, I'm not gonna say like, oh, my whole life changed. It was like going to the top of the mountain. But you know, I mean, it's something when you can get qualified advice from someone that's been where you're trying to go or someone that's headed in a similar direction as you. I don't know if that answers the question.
No, you did. I'm with you, brother. Like, so one of the things, I've been diagnosed with a few things, and one of the things, and that's why before we came on air, I was like, yeah, wherever we take this conversation, I'm going with you. So wherever we go, I'm gonna try to reel it back in, but it be some good content into those conversations as well. You talked about how you went undiagnosed for 30 years. And you talk about being married, being a parent. How did that affect those relationships? Because a lot of it was undiagnosed, and what impact did it have on like your relationship with your spouse and your children?
I think it affected me the most out of like anyone else that is found out afterward. For most people, you know, oh, hey, you know, by the way, I found out I'm autistic. Oh, okay. It just answered a lot of questions for everybody. For me, it was kind of a relief, you know, the things that I do that are attributed to like, you know, autistic stems or those kind of things. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not nuts. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I thought I was, but this is just, you know, I'm autistic. That's what it is. It was cool to be able to put a label on or give it a name, do some research on it, you know, figure out how to move forward after receiving a diagnosis. But from my wife's standpoint, she's like, you know, I mean, same person, you know, like, it's not like a diagnosis is going to change who you are. Like, you're the same person. It's just, now you know, now you have answers to some of the things that may be deemed, you know, different or, you know, unnormal that you do. There's no such thing as normal, but you know what I'm saying.
You're so right. There's no such thing as normal. Normal is a myth.
Definitely a myth.
What was, as a Black man, and I feel like now with mental health, we're starting to put faces on different mental health conditions that was predominantly a white face of it, like especially when you see commercials and things like that, or when you did see those commercials. What were some of the things that you learned about being autistic or autism in general that you want the Black community to know?
Same things as the mental health stuff, because I would put autism still in that mental health bucket. because your kid may be autistic. He's not retarded. No one said he was retarded. Like no one said he was stupid. No one said he was crazy. There are no demons inside of this child. It's just a mental, but even with the mental health stuff, I remember this is back when I was in the NFL, and I went to like a pretty big church in Michigan, and I remember like coming out about it like it's a, but what I'm saying, so when I stepped out of the mental illness closet, like what? We're gonna start having parades. This is gonna be a single color flag, like blue or something, to calm everybody down. But when I talked about it in church, like, and this is a predominantly white church, so I see these African American women coming. I see these Black women, African American. I ain't running for president.
You done became
these Black women. These sun-kissed goddesses. Okay, I'm sorry. Some of them were older, some of them were more middle-aged, none of them were younger. But they all had the same message. You're not mentally ill, that's a demon. And I'm gonna pray for you. And I'm like, no, like I don't know. But like those couple experiences really hit home to me how like we don't like talking about that in the Black community at all, which is weird because after 300 years of slavery and Jim Crow and all this other kind of stuff, we need to be talking about it the most because you get that trauma passed down from a slave to an abolished slave to that abolished slave sharecropping kids who are going through Jim Crow now to their kids who are going through Jim Crow. There's trauma. There's a lot, there's a lot of bad stuff that's been passed down. That's not saying good stuff hasn't been passed down too, but we can't just deal with the good. We can't just sit here and talk about, oh, we're so athletic, we saw this, we saw that, and not address the bad stuff. Like there's hundreds of people getting shot in Chicago and Detroit every month. And, the fact that we can't manage money and the crabs in the barrel thing and all that other kind of stuff, these things are related. They're not one of, but yeah. I feel like if anybody's community, needs to be talking about mental health and the effects of it and generational trauma, it's the Negro in America. I'm a golly, now I sound like Malcolm X. But
you done switched so many.
Like, man, this dude really is nuts. He got about 4 different people in there pulling the strings. But like just like a Native American. I mean, the same way, like not a lot, but the same way, like people who escaped the Holocaust, some of them came over to be therapists because they understood, like, hey, this ain't just no normal, all right, it's over now, we can move on, So I think it's something that we need to address more, And I don't mean address more like, oh, here come Crazy Carlton. Now, y'all remember, Carlton's schizophrenic.
Right.
Schizophrenic. But like just stuff we need to talk about, just simple stuff. Like if I'm about to get off, like if we're talking and I'm like, hey, I got to go in 20 minutes. That's not the case. But hey, I got to go in 20 minutes. I got to meet with my therapist. You shouldn't be like,
right.
I'm gonna keep that between us, brother. Like, no, I'm not telling you because it's a secret. Like, what's the difference between going to a therapist and going to a doctor? If your leg is broken, you go to the doctor. If your emotions are broken, or something's going on that you can't see, you go to the therapist. I mean, it's just, we got to take these labels off of it, But this is the same community that tried to shut down Kirk Franklin because he had a song called Stomp. Hey, this don't sound like Mahalia Jackson. This is that Sinners music. Oh no, like, no. It's just something you've never heard before. That doesn't mean it's bad,
Mm-hmm. No,
Black people are always so suspicious, like
about everything, and
everything. $5. Did the white man put you up to this? Like,
right.
$5.
Who sent you?
Who sent you? Hold on, let me check my phone. Ain't nobody checking your phone. Like, let me make sure they ain't listening. You don't even pay your phone bill. How they gonna listen? Like, phone been off for 2 weeks. Talk about check my phone. Sorry.
No, I got you. I'm with you. I can see the comedian, though. I tell you that. I can see the comedian. You spoke of growing up in Detroit, correct?
Sure.
what is your thoughts around, because Chicago right there and around gun violence in our communities when it comes to certain things and conditions? I'm gonna take it a little serious back with you. So
Can I be honest?
mm-hmm.
Well, of course I can be honest. I don't
Of
know why.
course.
I hate when other people ask that question and then I can proceed to ask. Like,
Right.
that's just like if you snap on somebody, sorry, bro, the mental illness. Like, I hate it when people do that, but then I do it. Like,
Right.
anyway, honestly, it's hard because it's a complex situation. Me personally, you want to talk about music and the effect that music has on people. Obviously, you can't cut on a hood ass rap song without hearing "I'll kill you, I'll kill your whole family, I'll kill everybody that ever loved you." And it's bad because part of me is like, that needs to stop. But there's another part of me that's like, but do you hear the 808s?
Yeah, it's
Do you
going
hear
down.
this
Back in
man
Blood
is-
was hitting last year.
That's all I'm saying. I'm like, hey, these, you know, on one hand, it's like, hey, this is dangerous. But then there's another part of me that's like, but I will kill you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this
That's
dude's
so
not
true.
wrong, you know? But I think I think the mental health thing is going to be a big part of it, man, if I'm be honest with you. Because, I mean, there's metal, you know, heavy metal songs, and it's way more grotesque than "I'll kill you." You know, I don't know what's the rating on this. I'll do
what you do, man.
Okay, I'll do I'm trying to make it, you know, like not shocking. I'll do unspeakable things to your mother while your grandmother watches, you know. And it's like, but these cats ain't. Well, actually, I can't even say that. They're school shootings. But that's the whole, you know, but I would say, I think it comes down to the mental thing. These words are obviously not words of affirmation. These are screaming, like, I'm in pain. You know, things have been done to me. I've been hurt. It's just like seeing a dog that's been abused and it wants to bite everybody. Like, well, yeah, that's what's going to happen. The dog's been abused. You know?
Yep.
So we got to take care of, you know, like, we got to rehabilitate the dog. Or in that case, in our case, you know, I mean, it's a mental conversation that we need to have. And rappers are starting to have it. But even now, you got cats rapping about like overdosing on psych meds, and that's not cool. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying don't drink or don't have fun, but like, don't sit here and make it seem like everyone needs to be on Percocets, because that's not the case, you know. But that's what the music's about. You're trying to numb the mental and emotional pain that you don't want to acknowledge is there, and if you do acknowledge it's there, you don't want to do anything to change it. It's hard work, I get it, but nothing worth doing is easy.
You got one of the most sought after jobs that Black men in our communities try to get, and being
and I didn't even want it.
And being a professional athlete. I'm trying to be serious.
Do you know how I got into football?
No, go ahead. I read some of the bio. I did a little research, but go ahead.
I know nothing about sports. I'm a nerd, bro. You see these lightsabers? You see these look. These ain't just for show. These bad boys work. Hold on. You know what I'm saying? Like, we talking real nerd life over here. You see these guitars over here? Bro, you don't see a jersey. This is my office. You don't see a damn jersey. You don't see nothing. I say that to say, my love was engineering, science, math, technology, science, technology, engineering, and math. I was a STEM kid before STEM was a thing. I got kicked out of an engineering camp. It was a residential engineering camp. I got kicked out the second day. Looking back on it, it was an autistic situation. I did not read the social situation correctly. One thing led to another. This kid starts flipping up, not me, but this kid starts flipping over tables in the computer lab, breaking computers at the University of Michigan. Obviously, both of y'all got to go. It's funny that I got kicked out for bullying when I had been bullied all the way up until this point in my life.
Wow.
The student has become the master. But
you found the key.
Yeah. But we both got kicked out. I needed something to do over the summer. I was like 15, 16, something to do to stay out of trouble. I didn't watch sports. I barely knew about basketball. My dad was a huge basketball fan. And so I saw Remember the Titans, that came out. I'm like, oh, it looks like football season is right around the corner. Maybe I can get in shape. And here we are.
That's the blessings from above.
That's definitely, you know what? It's definitely a blessing. And it's honestly one of the reasons I was comfortable like walking away from the job to do what I wanted to do. Because if I can be this good at something I didn't even know about, imagine how good I could be at stuff that's been with me for life, you know? So.
Well, I'll go into the question that I was going to ask and say, for a person that got one of the sought after jobs that he didn't want, but a lot of people yearn for, a lot of young
Somebody
men.
listening to this is pissed right now. Like, what? What you mean you didn't want to go to the nigga? I was on varsity for 4 years and they ain't trapped. Ooh, like.
What do you tell young men in the community, because you serve on a lot of different boards and or a lot of arms, and with the NFLPA, you work with HAM, I think I seen, the Health Alliance for Austin musicians. What do you tell the young men who sought after this? Because I'm still trying to figure that out, where like, yo, it's only a few jobs out there with the NFL that you can get, and we all fighting for it. What do you tell them young men to, like, focus on?
Focus on the stuff that you don't care about. That's how you gonna make it, baby. I ain't care about the NFL. No, I'm just playing. It's the things you don't care about that'll get you where you're trying to go. I mean, honestly, okay, the real answer is not as happy. Sometimes you got to bury a dream to give birth to a better one.
Oh, talk to me. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, let me get my Bible real quick. Hold on. No, I'm just playing. Let me get the Bible, the Quran, the Torah. I'm speaking to everybody right now. But, like, for example, yeah, I didn't know about football when I first started playing, but once I did start playing and like I started to understand certain things. But honestly, even as a professional football player, I watched the Super Bowl this past weekend. The head referee with the white hat, he's ref games that I've played in before. And I can remember walking up to this man after he threw flags like, hey, ref, how many yards is that penalty? And he would look at me like, are you serious? I'm like, I don't know. You don't know. It's Monday Night Football. But, I really didn't know. But I say all that to say, as I did start getting better, like I had goals. I had dreams. I wanted to be on winning teams. I wanted to go to the playoffs. I wanted to be in the Pro Bowl. I wanted to be a Hall of Famer. I wanted to win a Super Bowl. I had to bury all those dreams. I was never on a winning team. When you ain't on a winning team, it's hard to go to a Pro Bowl. When you're on a winning team, you can't go to the playoffs, can't get to the Super Bowl. I watched the Super Bowl for the first time in like 10 years yesterday or Sunday. And just being honest with you, it hurt. It hurt a lot. It was like the cavalcade of it was just things that'll never happen for Joe Barksdale. Like that's, in my mind, that's what I was watching. And I know Aaron Donald, very happy that Aaron and them won the Super Bowl. But at the same time, it's like, damn, but you ain't never gonna win one. You'll never be in a Pro Bowl. You'll never be in the Hall of Fame. And it was almost like watching a funeral, But that's the reality of life. Sometimes you got to bury dreams for better ones. I mean, that's the best way I can explain it. I mean, even Dave Chappelle, for example, that's another example of someone you can see like the back end of what happened. It was his dream to, have the Chappelle show and be known by everybody and all that other kind of stuff. Then things started happening on the show he wasn't comfortable with. He had to bury that dream. People, you walked away from $50 million, but Netflix gave him $20 million every time he dropped a new special. So he had to walk away from one dream. And it was painful, I'm sure. I mean, there's footage of Chappelle during that 10-year hiatus that you can see him, at a comedy place in New York or somewhere else. And he don't look good. He don't look happy. And he looked like somebody that had to bury a dream. I mean, I'm not trying to get biblical, but like, that's all throughout the Bible. Like, the best things happen to people during their biggest disappointments. If Joseph from Genesis never gets sold into slavery, he is not second in command in Egypt. It had to happen exactly that way. Sometimes, no matter how painful, whatever it is that you had to lay down is, your arms are open to receive something bigger, something better. and you don't know it at the time, and you hurt, and you go through it, and you suffer. But I mean, suffering is a gift. I don't know anybody that's done anything of consequence that hasn't suffered. And I mean, even the bad people, and I know, I don't care what people think. Adolf Hitler, I'm not sitting here saying Adolf Hitler was a great person. Adolf Hitler was homeless from 20 to 30. Homeless. My man went from being homeless to running. How you live the American dream in another country? How do you do that? You know what I mean? But he was homeless. I mean, I know people, that, as soon as I say Adolf Hitler, people, oh shit, what's he about? Adolf Hitler.
It's a trigger, right?
But he was homeless for 10 years, after growing up in a traumatic childhood, after, all those other kind of things. I mean, you look at people that we look up to, Richard Pryor. The childhood that he had, Richard Pryor was one of the main reasons why I wanted to go into comedy. I had never seen a comedian that kind of grew up and had similar experiences. Because even cats like Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, like they don't talk about getting molested or growing up in those sexual experiences, seeing dead babies, those kind of things. Richard Pryor did. He came from that, and he was shit. If it weren't for Richard Pryor, I don't know if I'd have been brave enough to get on stage and tell my story. But that's another example. Suffered a lot. Dave Chappelle, we talked about, suffered a lot. King David suffered a lot. King David's own daddy didn't even call him to be anointed as king. You can't be talking about David. Here's my other son. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, I remember hearing a preacher, his name is Tim Keller, and he says, suffering, is something that we can't avoid in this life. We're all gonna suffer. But if you let it, suffering can help you become a person of greatness. And there's no other way to become a person of greatness than to suffer. So I say that to say, burying that dream, I'm suffering right now, today. Whatever, I'm honest about it. It is what it is. I'm not sitting here, crying with boxes of tissues and that kind of stuff, but like, I hurt, but I believe that this same pain that I feel today is going to work toward, I don't know, it's going to be like redeemed, or like, it's not, like no blood was spilled for no reason. Like, I just hold on to, something better is coming, even if I can't see it,
Now, I appreciate that. Sharing that, man, and salute to you for your strength and courage to even share like the present of how you're feeling in the moment and how the Super Bowl impacts you. And even going to this interview, I kind of didn't want to focus too much on the NFL because there's a person behind this. Like, you're a person before you're, an athlete. Like, and I appreciate you showing me the lifesavers, because it gives hopes to certain people, that certain young men, of like, oh man, I can look at this person and be relatable to him and not have to fit in a social demographic to reach this type of goal. So I appreciate you sharing everything that you just shared.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's honestly, that's why I talk about it, because I feel like I'm the only one that will, because I'm the only one that doesn't care enough to tell somebody about how I feel, if that makes sense. Like, and maybe that's the high functioning autism, I don't know, but like, I know that more people will get encouragement from hearing it come out of my mouth than reading it in my suicide note. You know what I mean? So it's my pleasure.
Talk to me about the newly dropped single Alone, and what was the inspiration behind it, and what kind of feelings you wanted people to take back from the song.
So like, being a big Black man that's also autistic and mentally ill, I live in a world every day that wasn't built for me. You can talk about being big, get on an airplane, sit anywhere but the first class seats. You will be tight. You may be tight in the first class seats. But just public transportation, things people don't even think about. Going to an event, that's one of the reasons I don't go to concerts. I can barely fit in them seats, being an intimidating figure at nighttime, you see somebody coming down the street looking like me, your gun and your taser start getting real interchangeable. You know what I'm saying? Like, the taser may not work, cut the body camera off. You know what I'm saying? Like, or you talk about autism, being in a world that was built by non-autistic people and being told to exist in it. even though your brain is hardwired differently than in your mind everybody else's. You live in this glass box, sphere, whatever you want to call it, that no one can see, but you feel alone. No one understands what you're trying to say. No one sees the world how you see the world. No one wants to listen. And that's a very lonely place to be in. Or what we talked about earlier, burying dreams. You know, suffering alone is what the song is about. And like I said before, we all suffer. And that's my way that I relate to people, is through pain. Because we've all been through pain, you know. So that's what the song is about. You know, that lonely place that you feel, whether it's like you're experiencing pain, ruminating on it, in a certain situation where you don't feel heard or understood. The song is pretty much saying, like, I know what that's like. That's the third verse, you know, wish I could right or wrong for you. Sincerely, I know what it's like to go through pain. So that's what it's about. You know, it ain't no club single, you know, it's not gonna get played at anybody's graduation. But one of my musical heroes is Kid Cudi. And his music comes from a place of pain, you know. And I remember the first time I heard Soundtrack to My Life, I'm like, this dude understands what it's like to be me. And I've been riding with him ever since. Kid Cudi was one of the reasons I learned how to play guitar too, him and Jimi Hendrix. But like I said, I talk about what people don't want to talk about. Sing about it too.
You spoke on something. I was trying to formulate the question of why you said you relate to people through pain, and you relate to people because it's something that everyone experiences in some way or another. Do you ever feel like, I'm trying to word it correctly. Do you ever feel, because I understand that too. Me, this is a mental health podcast, having these certain conversations. You are a breath of fresh air when you bring a comedic aspect to these certain type of conversation. Like, you can get as deep as the Alone single and have those conversations, like you said, it's not in the club, but you also can make light of certain situations and put it in a comedy aspect. Do you ever feel like, I know this is an obvious question because you're an artist, that you're boxed in because you're relating people to pain, like only, and for me, and that's why I said I'm gonna exit it deeper. For me, people only want to have mental health conversations with me sometimes, and sometimes that's not what I want to talk about. Like, hey, let's have a regular conversation about the Super Bowl, and not, oh, the impact of PTSD from playing. And I don't want to have that. If you can hear the question, let me know your thoughts.
Are you talking about like people in your everyday life or people on the show?
It's a good question. The show, they're here for that, so I don't mind it. But I like the way you weaved it in there, so we can go talk about Richard Pryor and then have a laugh, but also take it into a seriousness. So I don't mind the show as much, but even on the show, I appreciate the comedic aspect because everything doesn't have to be the serious component to it. So everyday life and the show.
So I would say my answer is going to sound weirder than your question, but I do know what you're asking. That's why I do it. It's super simple, but like, that is why I do it. And honestly, I think that's one of the things I'm here to do. You know, I was eating Valentine's Day was a couple of days ago. I personally think that if the only time you feel loved is on Valentine's Day, we don't need to be together. I don't like the holiday. I love my wife. I got my wife's initials tattooed on my hand under this ring. I think the holiday is stupid. I think it's become this super commercialized, it ain't tricking if you got it ass holiday, and I don't like it. You could have put that money into something else. It ain't like y'all ain't gonna be together tomorrow. Anyway, we were eating dinner. It was Valentine's Day. We have date nights on Monday nights. As you know, Valentine's Day was a Monday, so it just happened to be Monday. We out. Drunk woman comes up. And this happens a lot. Like, women get real aggressive when they get like drunk. you know, I mean, people in general, but like this woman comes over, starts touching my shoulder. Hey, how's it going? You guys having a little meal here, huh? A little dessert? What you eating? I'm, you know, trying to be nice. A little carrot cake. Oh, you mind if I have some? And, you know, oh yeah, sure, get some. She grabs my wife's spoon, scoops up the cake. And this is, you know, it felt like being molested. Like someone came and saw something that they wanted that I had.
And they took it.
They took it. And I didn't know how to feel about it. Because part of me is like, oh, here's a woman that's just trying to be nice. But another part of me is like, but I feel some kind of violated. But another part of me was like, but she was cool. I mean, I kind of enjoyed it. And you get all these conflicted feelings. I'm sorry, what was the question?
I didn't remember it was hidden in the question. So I was trying to like having those conversations about like mental health all the time and not being.
That's what it is.
There you go.
So even in that, I can take that situation and turn it into like, we can talk about childhood molestation, but we can also talk about these aggressive drunk women out in public, you know. I think for me it's just realizing that it needs to be. It's weird. Okay, since I'm being honest, I feel like I'm starting to realize that that's part of my purpose here, is to be able to, because people don't talk about difficult things with that kind of levity or with that kind of ease. And if you make the situation seem drastic, then the listener's gonna tense up and kind of, I'm trying to wait till we get away from this. Mm-hmm. Whereas opposed to, you know, sometimes the truth works best as the truth, and then you can put window dressing around it, or, you know, talk about it as a human. But I think part of it is just how easy I talk about it. You know, I'm sure you bring some people on here and, you know, you say the word trauma and it's like, you know, but not me, you know. And if you want, I can start guest hosting the show with you too. Hey, Frank, that's great. But before you tell us about whoever touched you in the showers, I noticed on your Instagram page. hey, Susan, those suicidal thoughts, I understand. If anybody gets it, I get it. But speaking of suicide, did you see the play calling at the game? That coach should kill himself. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Joe, I'll let you do it, Joe. I'll let you do it. I think Oprah would be disappointed in me if I started doing it. Like,
you think Oprah would be disappointed?
Oprah. Reginald, I don't think this is good for you to have this type of conversation like that. Oprah might be disappointed in me.
Why? And what does it matter? I mean, I'm sorry, but so? Oprah's one person. That's gonna be the name of this podcast. Oprah's one person, the Joe Barksdale episode. But no, I mean, I think that's part of like me being who I am.
Mm-hmm. That's why you're needed, and that's why you're necessary.
Yeah, because there are people who are disappointed that I don't prescribe to the fact that there are demons inside of me. I don't care because I know the truth. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you get to a point where like, if you want to be super pleasant and make everybody happy and follow all the guidelines, you will not be remembered in history.
That's true.
You will not be impactful. You will not be special. You will be another person. Going back to these great people, not one person of greatness has had everyone behind them all the time. Not even Jesus.
That's true. Somebody just broke it to me the other day that Jesus was hung. Like basically, like Jesus.
Yeah, they broke 13 different. So I do a lot of theology study too.
Here we go.
Traditional Jewish laws in between Jesus being kissed on the cheek and Jesus hanging on that cross. 13. They changed his charges when he had a court case in the dude's living room. It was a lot that went on. Mm-hmm. Jesus was lynched, executed, however you want to say it.
Jesus was lynched. That's why I said hung, lynched. Yep.
Yeah, he got lynched outside. He wouldn't even kill. I mean, like, this is because he wasn't a Roman citizen, but like, he didn't just get lynched. He got hung naked somewhere outside of the city for everybody to see. This is what happens, you know. And we talk about Jesus and all these kind of things, but like James, Jesus' half-brother that wrote the book of James in the Bible, did not believe Jesus was who he was when he was alive. Like, no, this is my brother. He's crazy. So I say that to say, If Jesus Christ didn't have everybody on his side, what makes you think you will?
That's a
You
fact.
know?
That's a fact. And it's inspiring to even like utilize that in that context, because it kind of it takes the pressure off of people when they're trying to like live up to
Yeah,
whatever societal standard that is put out there.
for sure. I mean, yeah, like David, the most famous king of Israel in the past. They didn't even want David to be the king of Israel. Like his own daddy was like, nah, you stay out there and watch the sheep. I know he ain't coming to anoint you as king. Don't even worry about it. Your tall brothers are in the house.
Mm.
Even when he fought Goliath, his own brother, David did not show up to fight Goliath. David showed up to deliver some food to the people that were on the battlefield.
Mm.
His brother runs up on him when he's showing up with the food, like, what you doing here? You trying to get some glory? You already got anointed king. What else you need?
Mm.
This is David's own brother. You know, David goes to Saul. I'll fight Goliath. Now, granted, David ain't seen Goliath. I'll fight him. You know, like, God's with me. I done killed this bear. I done killed these lions. I'm ready. But even in that situation, Saul, you too small. Like, these are people who were actively disagreeing with David right before the miracle of killing Goliath. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the same Hebrews that saw all these plagues in Egypt and saw the Red Sea split, we're still bitching to Moses. Sorry, excuse my words. But but you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Did you bring us out here to die? And it's like, bro, God would have killed you in Egypt if he wanted you to die.
That's true.
You getting bread from heaven. You getting led by a cloud during the day and a pillar of fire at night. And you talking about, does God want us to die? Now, as ridiculous as that sounds, we are the same way. And I think that's why that story's in there. Because as much as you want to look at it and be like, these ridiculous Hebrews, they done made it out of Egypt, they still, but we're the same way.
We are the characters change, but the story remains the same.
Yep. So I draw from those people. I mean, them people hated Moses, the same Moses that helped them get out of slavery. Moses, what the, you know, people, I mean, I say that to say, like, I mean, that's why Jesus was killed, because he pissed people off. But at the end of the day, you're gonna make some people mad. It just is what it is, you know, in my mind.
No, you are so right. To your point, how do you prepare your children for this world to now that you have the language of mental health, been to therapy and things like that? How are you implementing? Like you said, you went 30 years without getting any diagnosis or anything. How do you prepare the environment for your children now growing up so that they don't have to have the same story?
So obviously I do a lot of research. You know, reading books on raising emotionally intelligent children, those kind of things. When they get older, I will give them the option. I'm not gonna sit here and say, you gotta meet with a therapist, but it'll be more introduced as like, hey, I'm just making up a name. Hey, this is Kristen. You know, she just wanted to have a conversation with you. Nothing that you say to her will get back to me. Just want to set this up for you. See where it goes from there. But the thing that I do right now, because like one is 5 and the other one's 3, the main thing I do is I'm there when they are in distress. My therapist told me that a while ago, like, you know, nothing's more important to a child than being comforted when they're in like legitimate distress. So I'm trying to build that trust, that bond between myself and my kids right now, the bond that I did not have with my own parents. Like, my youngest daughter's 3. She doesn't fart without asking, where's daddy afterwards? Where's daddy? Like, you know, waking up in the morning, hey mom, where's dad? Like, she's 3. I was 3 years old. My grandparents and my aunt were taking me across the country for weeks at a time, months sometimes. Never asked for my parents, ever. And my grandma used to say it like it was oh, he's so mature, you know, like, he's 3. He's not mature. Like, there's something going on at the house. Like, oh, he's such a little man. He can't even count. Like, this man can count to 4, but you talk about he mature, like he's paying taxes and shaving in the morning. But that's something that I don't want my kids, you know, I didn't want my kids to be that way. I want to have a relationship with my kids. I don't want my kids to have panic attacks when they see me calling them on the phone. I don't want my kids to feel suicidal because of me. Like my parent, like I remember I was turning 8 years old. It was the night before my birthday. My mom asked me if I was excited about my birthday. And I'm like, to be honest, you guys talk about how much I cost and how big I am and how hard it is to clothe and feed me. I feel like it would be better if I weren't alive. That was my first suicidal thought. And it was because of my parents. I don't need my kids having their first suicidal thought because of me. And then I got screamed at. My mom starts yelling, like, what you mean? Oh. Then my dad comes in the room. Look, now you done got this woman going. I got to sleep in the bed with it. Go get my belt. Like, excuse me for trying to express myself. Them parents that are like, you can come to me with anything. My parents would say, you can come to me with anything and we'll kill you. Like, don't bring nothing to me. If it ain't an A on the test or some extra credit, I don't want to hear about it, So just trying to be different. People talk about like, I'll never learn what to do. Well, I know what not to do. My parents aren't in my life. Nobody in my family really is.
I was going to ask you about that, especially when you said went undiagnosed for so many years. And as we get to begin to close out, like, how does that, now that you're speaking out and you're involved in so many organizations, you're putting in your feelings, thoughts, and emotions in music, how does family relate to that now that you're speaking on your experiences?
I mean, I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. I mean, I got an aunt that's stolen from me. It was my dad's sister. He did nothing about it. A substantial amount of money, And I mean, just in general, I don't care. Like, because I deserve to be happy too. I see too many people hanging on to these toxic relationships with their parents just because, oh, that's my parents. And, blood is thicker than water. That's a lie. That's a misinterpretation of the correct phrase. The correct phrase is the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, which means the friends you choose, the family you choose is more important than the family that you were born into. Because family are human beings just like everybody else. Your family ain't no different than the crackheads you see on the corner. You're just not biologically related to this person. But don't sit here and be in these situations with family members where you miserable every day. Your mom's calling, you got to wipe the tears out your eyes before you answer the phone. For what? Because she's my mother? You didn't ask to be here. But Black parents will make you feel like you beg sometimes. Okay, not just Black parents. Toxic parents will make you feel like you beg. My parents made me feel like I begged to be here. If you would let my parents tell it, a disfigured hunchback of Notre Dame nun showed up to the front porch. There's no one else that will take him. They're going to flog him and kill him if you don't. Please. And they're like, no, we'll give you $100. Like, all right, I guess. But like, that's how my parents made me feel, and I know I'm not the only one. And someone's probably listening right now, not right now, but right now, I don't know what he's talking about. Oh shit, my mama calling. You know what I mean? Like, let's just be honest. I'm not saying everybody has a toxic relationship with their family, they need to cut it off. But I'm not saying that nobody does either. I've seen it. I hear people get visibly, like, I'll be on the phone with somebody, what's good, bro, man? I'm chilling, blah, 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 blah. Next thing you know how it is, you get no conversation with one of your homeboys. And he's like, yeah, I'm chilling. Man, I'm trying to chill because, back when I was growing up with my mama, I could never just sit around and have a break. It was always, you got time to lean, you got time to clean. And see, that's what these women don't understand now. And it just becomes this big thing. You know what I mean? It's like, bro, like, maybe you don't need to be talking to your mom as much. I'm not saying you don't need to talk to her at all. But maybe you don't need to talk to your mom as much. With me, and this is just me personally, I knew that my parents would never understand me. I knew that they would never own up to anything that happened. Even being the parent of a 3-year-old that was getting molested in daycare that didn't trust you enough to tell you. So what am I left to do? I'm not a college professor. It's not my job to make you see it. It's my job to help other people. And I don't care how you feel about it because you didn't care how I felt from years 0 through 18.
Well, Joe, this pretty much sums out our conversation. You done went from the highs to the lows, molestation, the healing. And I was going to ask you if you had any final thoughts, but I think that is a pretty good way to end and sum up our conversation this whole time.
I'll say this as a final thought, because I don't need anybody to think that I'm out here like I hate my parents. Like if I saw them, I would throw hands. No, it would be more of a, hey, Joe, is that your mama? Hey, let's get out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like, more of like if I saw a side chick, like, hey, don't speak to me in public. No, I'm just playing. But I do want to strongly express, I do not hate my parents, which is why I had to remove them from my life. Because if they had stayed around, I would have continued to get more and more bitter, and then I would have hated my parents. Yeah, that's it. I don't need anybody thinking like, you know, oh, cool. This dude hates his mama. I can hate my, whoa, didn't say all that. You know, I still believe in like, you know, like I believe in a God, and I believe that I'm not perfect either. We all make mistakes, but I also believe in doing what's best for my mental health. And I have a best friend, her name's Megan. We've known each other since kindergarten, and she calls it protecting my space. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to protect my space. Protect your space. Ain't nobody else gonna do it for you. Don't nobody else even know what your space looks like. Protect it, but you. You know, too many people, too many adults are still looking for, you know, the same situations that they were in when they were kids, where people just told them everything to do and they just followed it. Like that's adulthood. You making these decisions on your own, and make the decisions that are best for you. Because sometimes the decisions that are best for you ain't gonna be best for everybody. Like I'm an offensive tackle. My decision to be a good offensive tackle is not good for the defensive ends I'm going against. But I'm gonna still be a good offensive tackle. You know what I'm saying? It's the same. Like if no one else is looking out, if ain't nobody else looking out for you, and it seems you don't care about yourself, like what you expect them to do? How do you expect things to change? Take care of yourself first. That sounds very selfish. But I'm sitting here saying from the beginning, I'll bring this back to the beginning of our discussion. If I didn't take care of myself first, I wouldn't be here for my family.
I think that's going to be the title of this podcast is protect your space, because I love that was a good one. I know you had another one in there, but I think protect your space.
This is going to get deleted.
No, I want to keep it on there because it's a different conversation, but I love the spin on it because I think it's necessary and needed as well. I'll link Joe's information in the bio. You'll be able to reach out and download the singles. He has a ton of music out there. Comedy, of course, and then you can follow him as well. It'll be over his head during the YouTube and the clips that go out. So please make sure you stay connected with him and follow all the amazing work that he's doing as well. And on that note, Joe, I want to make sure I'm respectful of your time. I thank you for coming on. I appreciate the conversation. I hope it was good for you.
Oh yeah, I had a lot of fun. I love to be back. Thanks for having me.
Of course, you will definitely be back, Joe. I'm sure you may be requested back. Please subscribe, share Joe's message, share his story, share his clips, and leave a comment and review on Apple Podcasts. That helps the podcast, whatever system. And remember that this platform has never been about a replacement to therapy. It's an alternative place where people like Joe can share therapeutic stories. Thank you for listening.